And I can't speak to the specific language used in these kinds of agreements, but in one of these documents, what you will have is an agreement by DrDisrespect or whomever you're signing this exclusivity arrangement with to agree to abide by your policies and procedures, including your terms of service and your community guidelines. That will just be a covenant, I promise, in that document that he enters into. And it's basically a baseline for any of these kinds of things. So if you can point to a breach of one of these documents, chances are you can also point to the termination right you have in your exclusivity arrangement. You can get out of a relationship that you now find more problematic than you did 2 weeks ago, and maybe you free up those resources to sign up those people that are now free unexpectedly as of Microsoft's closure of Mixer. So you go through these terms and conditions. You're the lawyer for Twitch. You've been ordered by the boss to say, hey, okay, let's find something that is potentially problematic. Here are the whispers of his behavior. Here's what he did at E3 last year. Here's some other things that have happened that have caused us trouble. What can you find? You also agree not to put up anything obscene or pornographic. We've talked about that. That's what we talked about last week. Or otherwise objectionable to Twitch. Now, you might remember that Kotaku reported on DrDisrespect saying things about coronavirus, saying things about potential conspiracy theories about the origination and the movement of that virus. Maybe that's otherwise objectionable to Twitch. Twitch can just terminate you for whenever it decides it's a legitimate business reason. If you now cost more than they think you're worth, then they can bring a termination under this section, and then you can sue them over it. And you might if it's worth millions of dollars to you. But if you sue them over it, it's going to be a problem because you also agreed to certain things. Documents that we aren't probably talking about a civil claim, a third-party claim against DrDisrespect or against Twitch. Because this is the kind of thing where, at bare minimum, this last sentence, Twitch will use reasonable efforts to notify you of the nature of that claim, wouldn't make sense with what DrDisrespect has said, wouldn't really make sense with what Twitch has said about what has happened here. And so we probably aren't looking at an actual legal action from a third party. Possibly a criminal action, again, because this isn't exactly what would relate to a criminal action. This is talking about civil action, liability for dollars. But it's probably not that because Twitch would have additional notification requirements. Let's also look at how to resolve disputes with Twitch. You see here in their terms of service that you and Twitch agree to arbitrate any dispute arising from these terms of service or your use of the Twitch services. You and Twitch further agree to attempt informal resolution prior to any demand for arbitration. So if there is a dispute, if we imagine that Twitch has gone and said, we think that you violated this provision of our terms of service or our community guidelines, we are using that to terminate your exclusive arrangement. You aren't going to get this $25 million that Twitch says we're terminating your agreement for X, Y, and Z. DrDisrespect says, no, that's not a breach. And then they point to this sentence in the terms of service, which are incorporated by reference, almost undoubtedly in the exclusivity agreement. And you come up and you say, okay, fine, we have to try to informally resolve this, which means we get on a Zoom call, which means we go to a meeting, whatever it might be, before anybody demands arbitration. And then if arbitration is demanded, look at this next part. Any arbitration will occur in Santa Clara County, California, which may or may not be viable in the age of coronavirus here. And that arbitration will be conducted confidentially, right? By a single arbitrator in accordance with the rules of JAMS, which is an arbitration association, which means that in all likelihood, the parties would also agree that the informal resolution process should be treated confidentially. And if we are in that scenario right now, then this is exactly what you would expect in terms of who wants to get out of that contract. If they decide, whoa, this week was too hard on us, DrDisrespect is probably going to be a time bomb on this service. We're paying him too much money. We can use that money to buy Ninja and Shroud. What are we even doing, folks? You say, well, we can just point to this in the community guidelines. We reserve the right to suspend any account for any conduct that we personally determine to be inappropriate. And who wouldn't say that DrDisrespect is inappropriate in certain ways, right? That's almost his shtick. That's almost his deal as being inappropriate. That's how he got his fan base. That's how he got his audience. And so, yeah, you can start to speculate about breaking the law or self-destructive behavior, violence, threats, harassment, hateful conduct. And maybe some or all of that is a part of the story. But basically, Twitch has reserved for itself the right to get rid of anyone that it itself determines, not even reasonably, right? The lawyers on the other side might look at this and say, hey, you have to reasonably determine that. Nope. I can be as unreasonable as I like. We have just determined, Dr. Disrespect, that you are inappropriate or harmful to this service. We are thereby terminating that exclusivity, at which point Dr. Disrespect's agents and lawyers say, the heck you are? What are you even talking about, Twitch? And then maybe Twitch brings up some evidence it has of some wrongdoing, some problems, but you have this informal resolution process. You try to decide how this thing is going to go. And I believe, speculative of course, that what we have seen so far on this particular story leads to that kind of understanding of the situation. I believe we are more likely looking at a contract dispute, which could foundationally be about some kind of legal dispute or harassment or something along those lines. But Twitch probably doesn't have enough evidence or standing to actually bring that out in a tweet or otherwise to adjudicate it across the public. So what they are trying to do is leverage their contract terms against Dr. Disrespect using what could absolutely be inappropriate or harmful behavior that they actually truthfully believe happened in the past, and all because Twitch now finds itself in a situation where they can no longer afford, from a public relations standpoint, to be affiliated with people that tarnish their quote-unquote good name.